Okay, so here we are for the presentation on dissertation defense and presentations for multilingual students. So, my name is Elaine McCollom. I am from the University Writing Program, and I teach courses in oral skills, presentation, speaking, and that sort of thing. So I would like to share with all the multilingual students here in the audience some of the tips that I have for better presentations. Okay, so back we go. I can't be too close to that microphone, but I'm going to come in the room as two different people. Okay, and so you tell me which one works better. All right. Hello, my name is Elaine McCollom, and I am an instructor in the University Writing Program here at Davis, and I am going to talk to you today about presentation skills and dissertation defense. Okay, so that's person number one. All right, and person number two. Hello, my name is Elaine McCollom. I'm here today to talk to you about presentations and dissertation defense. So yes, the more effective than, because when I came in the first time, what did you notice about me? What did you think right away?
Like you're afraid to talk to us? Oh, sure.
The first time, yeah.
Yeah. Intimidated.
Yes, that I am shy, I'm scared, I'm not very confident. And so if I'm not confident in myself, then you're less likely to be confident in me, right? So what we want to work on, and unfortunately, I know Latinos are very shy and afraid to talk. Well, not many, but we'll work on that. So today we're going to talk about anxiety about public speaking and some strategies to combat that. Tips for preparing an oral defense of your dissertation or thesis. What is your level? Are you a master's? You're a PhD, so you will have to do that. Okay. And strategies for non-native speakers to speak more clearly and understandably. Gestures and body language to appear more confident and engaging, which is what you just saw when I came in the room, and anticipating and answering questions from the audience, which is often very difficult for students. So we start out thinking about fight or flight. Okay. Do you fight? Do you flee? You don't have any choice. If you're doing a presentation or you're defending your dissertation, you can't just run, right? You've got to fight. Okay, but what happens is that all these things are going on. Okay, this, I'm going to be terrible. We feel like we're choking, our heart's beating, our legs are shaking, our body feels shaky, and we feel like we might just fall over and faint right in the middle of the presentation. And that is that fight or flight response. Okay, so it's that adrenaline that goes through our body when we meet something that's threatening to us. Okay. So, for example, you fight that bear, you know bear, okay, not cow, bear. Do you fight the bear or do you run?
I would run. Because the bear can go after you, so you have to hide yourself, or you have to use the spray.
Yeah, well, actually there's two. I think you fight the black bear, but the grizzly, you take it. but we're kind of talking figuratively, so we
Okay.
just run. We don't. Maybe if I do this again, I will change the bear to the bull, right?
Okay.
The bull, you don't fight the bull, you run. Well, yeah, you run fast. Do you take the test? Or do you drop out of school? You take the test, but you may be nervous, right? Okay, but you still take the test. We all feel it to some extent. Some people have huge anxiety when speaking. Other people have some, like probably the three of us. We have some, but not as much, as students who are very, very shy or who come from cultures where, this kind of being, the center of attention is not normal. So when we have things like exams, we go on a first date with someone we really like, we have a deadline coming up, or public speaking, we get that fight or flight, that adrenaline. So if you procrastinate, do you procrastinate, Wilson? Okay. Are you a procrastinator?
Could you hide? No, could you delay, no?
Yes, when you wait until the last minute to do things. But when I was an undergrad, even partially as a grad student, I procrastinated all the time. And it worked for me because as the deadline approached, like the night before, I would get this surge of adrenaline, like I was super focused, right? I didn't need to sleep, and you know that feeling, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the fight or flight, and you're going to fight. In that case, it does help, but it's not healthy, and we have so much stress because we procrastinate, but we don't forget we have something coming. And so it's stressing us until that adrenaline kicks in. But in general, it's not natural to stand in front of a room and talk. Okay, that's not normal. We're not used to doing that. So we all, to some extent, feel a little bit anxious when we get up in front of a group of people we don't know. So you want to accept that you're going to feel nervous. Totally normal. Okay, but just don't let it feed itself like cancer does, right? Cancer just keeps feeding itself and growing. But you just say, okay, I'm nervous, I'm gonna be nervous, and that's fine. And you want to use that adrenaline to help you. And we're going to talk more about the ways you can use it, with your body to give it an outlet. Okay, because if you're standing still and you're nervous, that shaking is worse, right? Because the adrenaline is just going and it has nowhere to go if you're just standing there. So when you have no outlet, when you give your anxiety no outlet, it creates more anxiety. Okay? So let's talk about the way the body movement can help with that. So what do you worry about? So now you can talk with one or two people near you, but since there's only the two of you, let's all three talk together. What do you guys worry about when you have to get up and speak in front of a group of Americans or, in English, let's say?
One thing that I feel kind of comfortable with is like when you are talking to some people, American people, and then they don't understand and they don't try to understand what you're talking. Like you're international student, and then a lot of times your pronunciation may be not the best, but it's kind of a thing that makes me a bit uncomfortable. And when I have to talk with people that knows much more about a subject than me, like for instance, there are calls and you're in the middle of, I don't know, 5 professors that are, yeah, and.
But do you think that they feel like you should know as much as they do?
No, but I feel kind of like afraid to talk things incorrectly and they judge me. I think it's normal, but
So you're afraid that you'll say things incorrectly. And that they're going to think, oh, this guy is stupid.
yeah.
Let's send him back to Brazil. All right, and tell me again your name, Eduardo. I think if I say
Yeah,
it,
it's not his name.
Eduardo, so kind of like Eduardo. My name?
Yeah.
Elaine, from Elena.
Elena, yeah.
Uh-huh. So what do you get nervous about when you have to talk with a group of native speakers?
I think it depends a lot on the theme, but especially if it's something that I'm less familiar. For example, now I have to defend my research. I haven't done too much research in my life. I have some. For example, I used to be a trainee in a methodology about conservation planning. So that I feel very confident in that. So I feel better at speaking. Now that I have to talk or defend my research, then I will be more like less confident because it's something like newer for me. There's articulating my research question and methodology. So I think it depends on the thing that will do one thing.
What is your field now?
Geography, political ecology, and Native American studies. So although I know about the issues of conservation in my country, but of course, in this case, I will be talking about research and political ecology and methods for research. So in that sense, I'm learning. Yeah, I'm not an expert, but much less confident that we give a training in the methodology that I knew, the work that I did before.
Yeah.
So I think that will make a difference.
Okay. And so when you're speaking in front of a group, though, if you're doing a presentation.
In this week, so
Okay, perfect. In terms of your language, you say you worry about your pronunciation, that sometimes people don't understand you. What's your strategy then for that?
I try to like read more and watch series, TV shows.
So what about when you're actually speaking? What strategies do you have?
I think I don't have one.
You just talk and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And what, do you worry at all about your pronunciation?
A little bit, but I sometimes I try to speak slower because some people complain sometimes to me speaking fast.
You do speak.
Especially in my native language, but it's English. So yeah, maybe that's something that I try to consciously do. What else? I think I just let it go and hope for the best, as you say.
Okay, so when you guys get up to speak, you're more kind of worried about your knowledge and what you're saying, more than your pronunciation or grammar or things like that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I can't help you with your knowledge because I have no knowledge. Although Elaine did show us about artificial insemination and that's knowledge I didn't need, but yes, he did a presentation yesterday. Okay, so I cannot help you with your knowledge. I think what I can tell you is to be more confident because you're here at UC Davis for some reason, right? And it's not that they said, let's get, the dumbest guy in the village and bring him to Davis, correct? Right? You guys are very intelligent. And you're doing a lot of work in your fields and have a lot of knowledge. So, you may not have as much knowledge as you have in, your previous field, but there's not that expectation that you would. So, you use what you have. You guys, I'm sure, both spend a lot of, studying and learning about your fields. And, you know, I tell students, and I may have told you guys, every class I took as an undergrad and a graduate student, I walked in the first day, I looked around and I said, I am the dumbest person in the room. Right? I felt like that until maybe, you know, about week 8. When I would see, like, whenever we took tests, whenever we had assignments, I was getting the highest grades. And then I'm saying, okay, well, maybe I'm not as dumb as I thought. But it happened again the next semester. I mean, it happened again, it happened again, it happened again. It still happens at work now. I look at my colleagues who are amazing. And I say, wow, I don't know enough. But, you know, this is normal. And so I think it, you know, let it go. Keep learning. And, you know, what you have, you know. So when you go in, you know, you have to have confidence in yourself. You have to. Okay, so let's talk. Unfortunately, that's about all I can say on that. Besides have a tutor, but we can talk about combating anxiety. Okay, so even if it's your anxiety is not about your speaking skills, if it's about your content, your knowledge, you're going to be anxious about that, right? So you are doing your presentation next week, and that's for a class?
Yeah,
or-
for a class of research design. So I
Okay.
have to present my research.
Okay, so you're defending your proposal, okay. All right, and you're doing a presentation coming up too, right?
Yes, in June, late in June.
Oh, so, and what are you going to be doing?
I will talk about my research that I'm doing my master's in the ADSA meeting, that is American Dairy
Association?
Society Association. I don't remember now, but yeah.
If it's ADA, it's probably American Dairy.
ADSA.
Oh, okay.
American Dairy Science. Dairy
Dairy Science
Association.
Association.
Yes, and it will be in Canada. And
Wow.
there will be a lot of people that knows a lot, so I'm like kind of nervous, but yeah, I have to go through it.
Okay, no, then, all right, we'll get you ready, we'll get both of you ready, so. All right, so strategies to combat that, first is to prepare. Okay, so know your material. Prepare well, know your material, and I'm sure you're on it because this is an important presentation for you, so I'm sure you know your material, and you will too, because you will stress about it and you will know it. Okay, once you know your material, that's the hardest part. Okay, the rest is easy. Maybe not easy, but not as hard. And then practice. Okay, practice, 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 practice alone, practice in front of friends or colleagues. Film yourself. And recording yourself is, I think, the most important thing you can do. The class I teach, the UWP 391, which is about presentations. We do 3 presentations during the quarter, and it's in the film studio, the Surge 2 here at UC Davis, and there's a professional videographer, and he films the students as they present. And then we watch their presentations, the 2 of us together, and it's amazing what you'll see about yourself and go, oh, wow, am I really doing that? Okay, like, I didn't realize I'm doing that. You know, and seeing yourself and hearing yourself really helps. And then you can make adjustments. Visualize, okay? So think about, picture your audience. Now, you'll know who your audience, who your important audience is, right? It'll be your committee.
Yeah, no, for that class will be my classmates and professor.
Okay.
And for my release, of course, that will be at the end of the fall.
Oh, okay, so this is kind of a practice run
Kind of,
for you. Okay, that's good. And you,
For sure.
you can kind of envision your audience, but you're probably envisioning it much worse than, you'll probably get a lot of students like you coming in. So the thing is, and this is what's happening to Wilson. Do you know what a heckler is? A heckler. This word here, I don't know how
I
to
don't
use.
know, it's something that people that has to look for something bad about you.
Yes, and they don't just look for it, but they sit in the back and go, boo, that sucks. You're stupid, right? Are you really expecting that in your audience, Wilson?
No.
No, you're not gonna have people just sitting there going, oh my God, he's so bad. But I think all of us think about that, like, you know, who's gonna be in the audience that's going to criticize us? And even if you have, you know, your professors there or other experts, if they give you criticism, it's to help you because they're giving you constructive criticism. Right? But you know, you have to realize you're asked to present for a reason. For you, it's because you're a piece of, you know, where your dissertation will be coming up. For you, why did they ask you? Like, why Wilson? Why? Do you know why they asked you to present?
Because they think I can do that.
Okay, I'm guessing so.
Oh, they accept the presentation, they accept the abstract,
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, so what do they expect from you? They just expect you to give them information. Okay? They know that you guys are students. They're not expecting you to be at the level of an expert. But they know that you have been doing research and you have this knowledge, maybe a little more than they might have in certain ways. But they just want to hear what you have to say. That's why they're there. Okay? They're not there to you know, chase you out of the room. But I think we often think that. We tend to think negatively. So the last thing is to relax, right? Try to relax and de-stress before your presentation. Take a walk. If you run, you can do yoga, meditate, just do some stretching, okay? But what you don't want to do is have a beer or two or three.
Or more.
Right? That is not the best way to de-stress because it is going to backfire. And as I wrote that, thought about Wilson because he had to do the TOEIC exam, which is you know, he's going to be a TA. Have you done the TOEIC?
No, they didn't, they waived it to me because I have my master's from.
In the US?
Yeah.
Yes, well, Wilson had to do it, and unfortunately, he signed up, and then Brazil ended up in the World Cup match on the morning of his presentation, so he told me he had to go he watched the World Cup, he was stressing, and he couldn't even have some beers while he's watching, because he had to go do that exam. And I was so proud of him, because he could have had the beers and then gone and done the exam. And he did not have the beers, so I actually thought about you when I.
So one beer doesn't count?
No, if anything, one beer will make you sleep, yeah,
Okay, well, for me too.
okay. But yeah, skip the beer.
Okay.
So if you're defending your dissertation, and this could also apply to you and it can also apply to you kind of for whatever you're doing. But start preparing very early, okay? As early as you can. I mean, it's have it in your mind that that's the end goal, and piece by piece, start preparing. Spend extra time on your introduction, and that goes for any presentation, because oftentimes we think about the content. We don't think about when we come in and present ourselves to the audience. Okay, and that doesn't mean it needs to be long, but you're making a first impression on people. Okay, so you want to take a moment. No, they're going to provide this. Yeah, they'll have it provided to you guys. I'm not sure where and how, but they will. But you want to take a moment, you know, introduce yourself, smile at them, make a good first impression. Don't just jump right in. Okay? Attend presentations or defenses by other candidates, if you can do that. Starting now. Have you gone to any yet?
I have seen people presenting the research, but not in
The actual defense. But I believe here people are allowed to attend, correct? It may vary by department, but find out, because that I think is the best thing you can do. And again, for me, who was a student, whenever I felt like I'm going to suck, I can't do this, I'm gonna be terrible, I would say, you know what, that person did it. And that person really is an idiot, right? And that person did it, and that person, and I can do it too. And so watching other, candidates defend their dissertations will give you ideas about what you should or shouldn't do, right? And so that does help. It's like when you do presentations in class with me, when you see other people do their presentations, it kind of gives you some idea, okay, yeah, I can do better than that, or, I shouldn't do that. This is kind of human nature.
Great.
Yeah, no, and you start seeing what their committee is doing, okay, when they do questions and things. It's really helpful. Know your committee members, okay, and you're choosing them, right? So, you do know who they are, and you should know what their specializations are, what their research interests are, what their personalities are, okay? Know these people, and when you imagine yourself giving that dissertation, imagine those people there. And what is this guy gonna say about this? Or what will she say about this part, based on what their specialties are, okay, or their expertise, or their interests. And when you get feedback along the way, before you defend your dissertation, make sure you review that feedback you get. Because chances are, if someone tells you, I see you're struggling here, why don't you do this or this or this? There's a good chance they may come back to that again in maybe a little different way, but something similar to what they gave you feedback on earlier. Yeah, as you meet with them and they review, and but even along the way, even with your proposal. Use slides wisely, okay? This is for any presentation, because they're there to aid you, okay? They should not be the focus. In certain places they might be, but you are the focus. You are the candidate. You are the one presenting. And so you don't want all the focus to be on the slides all the time, okay? Any presentation, but especially this, make sure you sleep and you eat well in the days before. Because it's not the night before, you're gonna be nervous, right? Okay, and you may not be able to sleep as well, but if you can build up your, we call sleep bank in the days before, you have a better chance than if you were running sleep deprived, okay, and stressed. Okay, and then that morning, make sure you're eating well, get your protein in, and not too many carbohydrates so they will make your brain go sluggish. Yes. And then when you're up there, as with anything, focus on your information, not how you're performing. Okay, just focus on what you know and what you have. And so if you have your presentation, you have your slides, then you shouldn't be too nervous. You know this, you're presenting your information, it's all good. Okay, focus on that. Don't focus on, I'm nervous. Okay, Just push that aside and say, yes, I am an expert in this. Maybe not at the level of some other people, but you are an expert. Okay, so you have to focus on that. At least you are an expert in the information you're sharing. Any questions? And you guys can stop me, I don't have to worry about. So. Speaking clearly, I'm having a hard time with this because I'm getting a tooth implant. And I have my tray, like they pulled out a tooth and they're gonna put a permanent tooth in there. So I have a tray with a false tooth and I'm
Like feeling.
yeah, my tongue is not moving the way that it should because there's this plastic stuff there. But when we're speaking another language, our tongue is doing all kinds of stuff that may not be what we want it to do. Okay, so we may not be speaking as clearly as we would like. Because some of the sounds are more difficult for us. So you've got an accent. Acknowledge it. Don't try to hide it. Everyone can notice that you have an accent, right? So, when you're presenting, you can say, I'm from Brazil. English is not my first language. I know I have an accent, so,
Be gentle.
well, ask me for clarification if you need to. If there's anything you don't understand, please stop me and let me know. But I tell the students in 391 that the accent is often what we call the elephant in the living room. Okay, that there's this humongous issue nobody wants to talk about. So your audience is not going to raise their hand, hopefully, and say, you have a really bad accent, right? I don't understand. They're not going to say that. They're just not going to say anything. So it's better for you to open the door, acknowledge it, so that they know you're not going to be offended if they ask for clarification. All right, es cuando yo hablo español, siempre empiezo con, pues, perdóname el pesado acento gringo, yeah? Because I know, do you understand?
A bit.
Because I know you have an accent. And I know Spanish speakers want to laugh when I talk because sometimes my accent is funny, right? And I have not had to go to a Spanish speaking country and do a presentation. God help all of them if I did. And so don't think, and this is what you were mentioning before, don't think that speaking quickly will hide your accent or grammar errors, because it doesn't. It just makes it all worse, because if you already have an accent, the audience is not going to be able to understand you if you're going too fast. Okay, so speaking more slowly and more clearly helps the audience to get used to the way you talk. Okay, so then they have a little time to say, he's saying appreciate. Okay. And they start getting used to the way that you pronounce things. Be sure you're speaking loudly enough that people can hear you. Okay, because in order to understand that accent, they've got to be able to hear what you're saying. Practice pronouncing words you have problems with. Okay, practice those over and over again. And you can get feedback from people that are native speakers or non-native speakers. There's certain things that people from certain languages struggle with. And for Portuguese and Spanish, it's often similar, the types of struggles that people have. But I know it's often the TH sound is often problematic. It's surprisingly, because in Spain they do use the, and so I would think at least Spanish speakers would be making fun of the Spaniards, right? Like, and saying, you know, but yeah, apparently not, but like, and then the like, institute, the word institute. Okay, Spanish people say institute. Institute. Right? Because they're not saying is institute, they're saying in with the sound of the I in Spanish, which is the E sound, right?
Yeah.
And for you
Same
guys,
for
probably,
us.
yeah. And one of my Spanish speaking students yesterday doing a presentation, I'm forgetting what the word she was using, but it was something like substitute. Substitute, she was saying substitute, like instead of the it's a ooh. You know, so there may be certain things you know that you have issues with.
Sovereign.
Tell me the word.
Sovereign. Sovereign. Sovereign.
Ah.
Sovereign.
Sovereignty, yeah. But it's more the sovereignty, yeah. It's not a word we use too often. You have to use it in your field?
Yeah, Native American studies.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, food sovereignty or.
But you're saying it just fine, but just,
Not that important.
and we're gonna get to how to pronounce like very clearly in a second, and Wilson will be an expert because we covered it in class. But you can also Google words, and I thought I was going to have an actual computer that I could type in on Google, but I don't. But if you write a word in, okay, that word, for example, you'll get like a little mouth, you know, and the word written out, and you can click and you can hear, you can slow it down. And they'll put in bold font the syllable that gets stressed. Okay, so it'll be like substitute, you know, then and you can go slowly and you can practice if you have your microphone on, you know, you can practice saying it yourself. And so that's often a good strategy to practice words. So the other thing is to stress and enunciate important words. So if you know you have problems with the word, kind of stopping, stressing, enunciating, and we're going to talk about what that is in just a second, because you're giving me a look like, what is stress and enunciate? So to enunciate is to pronounce each sound of a word clearly. And you want to focus on content words, words that have meaning, okay? Words that give you a picture or information. So to enunciate, you see my mouth, enunciate. I'm exaggerating the lip movements, okay? You don't want to try to enunciate each word in a sentence or pronounce each word separately. So you're not wanting to say, don't try to enunciate each word in a sentence, right? You want to focus on the words that give meaning and that are important, okay? Open your mouth. Use your lips and your tongue. And it's just like with the TH sound, okay? I think the biggest problem people have is not using the tongue. So think. Get that tongue out there, Wilson. Get it out. Think. Think. Okay, here, let me hear you say, think. There you go, think. Welcome. Yes, it's very good. Okay, so you really have to use your mouth. Okay, may I ask you what your first language is? Okay, so Cantonese. Are you from Hong Kong or just a region? Okay, all right, very good. Okay, so welcome, and now say the word think. Okay, good. Think. You want that tongue out. Okay, think. Any words you're pronouncing, it's important that your mouth and your tongue move. Okay? Because there's certain sounds in Spanish that sound, oh yeah. You guys have that too?
Yes, but not.
Not as much? Oh yeah, that is very hard. That's very hard, and I mean, it's a matter of my professors would say your tongue has to go up here, and you have to do this and that, and I spent a summer in Colombia, and they were having me saying, R con R, cigarro, R con R, barril. It's so hard. It's very, very hard, but you know, it's practice, 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 but use your mouth, tongue, and lips, okay? So that's to enunciate. To stress a word means that you're saying a bit more loudly or forcefully than the other words. You're stretching the vowel sound a bit, stretching the vowel sound, and you're using a higher pitch, your pitch going a little bit more, okay? And so we stress those content words so that the listener knows what is most important in the sentence, okay? Those words that carry meaning. So less important words like articles, the, and, prepositions, or forms of the verb to be, is, are, was, etc. We kind of just reduce them. They just get a little bit lost, right? You just get kind of lost. So, you know, I'm going to the park. I'm going to the park. You hear going and park most loudly. I'm going to the park. To the in Spanish, you say, yo voy pa'l parque, right? Yo voy pa'l parque. And it took me forever, like, what the hell is pa'l? Parque? Yeah. Pa'l. It's natural that we bring words together to facilitate, to make communication easier. But non-native speakers often want to say every single word. And then it can sound like you're angry, like you're, you know, your mother telling you, put your clothing in the basket, not on the floor. Okay? And you don't want to sound like mom, right? So focus on the content words. And you can enunciate and put more stress on words that you want to emphasize. Okay, so when there's an important word. So let's practice. So notice here, maybe this is my pointer. I'm afraid to be pushing buttons. Maybe not. Notice I put in bold the words we're going to stress, the content words. Okay, and then the words that are underlined, usually the last word in a sentence will get the most stress. Okay, so we're going to practice. So I'll say it first and then you guys say it. Okay, as an international student, I know I have an accent. Try it.
As an international student, I know I have an accent.
Okay, ready? Please tell me if anything is unclear.
Please tell me if anything is unclear.
Exactly. Okay, so you're putting that, especially that last word, you're giving it extra emphasis. Now, notice here, I'm adding emphasis to other words. Okay, so unlike previous findings, the results of my research suggest that it's more likely that blah, blah, blah. Okay, so try that. Let me do it one more time. Unlike previous findings, the results of my research suggest that it's more likely. Okay, so we're comparing previous findings, we're saying unlike previous findings, those ones before. And then we're stressing that it's more likely, so nobody's confused that it might be less likely, okay? So now the three of you, I want you three to talk to each other. Decide which words in the following sentence are stressed. Okay, I'm going to show you a sentence. Decide which ones get the stress, those content words that carry meaning. And then there are three words in the sentence that might get a little extra emphasis. So I want you to decide what you think they would be, which words, and why might they get more emphasis. Okay? And Wilson, I thought of you as I did this. This is from research on dairy cows. Okay, so you guys take a look at that, decide which words you're stressing. So remember, we're not stressing things like articles, prepositions, or forms of the verb to be. Is, am, are, was, were, been, right?
Three.
Okay, so go first, look at all the words, decide, just say which ones are going to get stressed in that sentence.
I would go with effects, less, and fertility.
Those are the only content words? No, I'm saying first you find all the content words, then the three words.
Okay.
Okay, so first, maybe it's even easier to say which words don't get stressed since there's a lot of.
Yeah.
For the message dominance effect, less significant. Additive effects. Then exceptions, there are like 4 parts.
Yeah, I would do the same, like dominance effects, less significant, additive effects, exceptions, or not, I don't know.
What about few?
Yeah. Few exceptions and fertility traits.
Okay, so then we'll go over, but what about the three words that might get extra emphasis for meaning?
If I will emphasize the 3, if you would have to choose only 3 in the first sentence, because that's the important message. You don't want to like a disclaimer, because there are a few exceptions. But the main message is that dominance effects are less significant than
Okay, so which three words do you think?
dominance, less, and additive.
What do you guys think?
Dominance, additive, and fertility.
Okay, and you, what is your name? I didn't know. Oh. Oh, did I have you in a class before? I feel like I know you. Were you here for your undergrad studies? Oh, no. No, so maybe not, then no. You, I feel like I know you. Okay, but Poe, do you agree with them or do you have another idea? Okay, all right. So let's talk about it. So you're right about the content words. So for just stressing the dominance effects generally were far less significant than additive effects, with a few exceptions for the fertility traits, right? So those content words, you guys were right. Everything pretty much except the, were, than, with, for the, okay? All the rest of them have some stress.
Can I change my guess?
Okay, change your guess.
Dominance, less, and additive.
Okay, so I will agree with you guys. Now, why? Why stress dominance and additive? Why would you stress those words?
Because you are
Emphasize.
doing this comparison. between each other.
Okay, good, because you've got here two different effects. So I would stress the comparison. The dominance effects can generally were far less significant than additive effects because you're comparing two things. Now, when you get to the far less, I think you can go either way. I would stress less, I think, okay? They were far less significant to make it clear that they were less significant, not more significant. However, you could also stress far, or you could stress both. The dominance effects were far less significant. Okay, or they were far less significant. But I think less is the word there. That was really good, you guys. That was really good. Okay. So when you're going slowly, you're stressing these words, your audience is much more likely to hear you and understand you than if you get up and say the dominance effects were generally far less significant than additive effects with a few exceptions for the fertility rate. Right?
It's sounding like my first presentation of that meeting.
Yes, you just want to slow down. Oh, what I was telling them is that sometimes students think that by speaking more quickly, nobody will notice their errors, right? But it doesn't work that way. We want to slow down, embrace your errors, okay? I am an international student and I have an accent.
Ooh.
Yeah. Right? Like, and you know, I'm proud of myself that I can get up here and talk in English because 10 years ago I couldn't. Right? I mean, you're embracing what you can do, not what you can't do, or what you think you can't do. Okay, so now we've got your body. What do you do with your body? Okay, while you're up there. So you saw me when I walked in as the first person and I just stand there. That's so awkward. So it's awkward for me, it's awkward for my audience. So what do I do then? Okay. Pretending to be a statue is not a good strategy. So coming up here and standing like this, no. Many students do that. Okay, no, you look like you're ready for the military. No. There are several benefits to using gestures with your arms, okay, and moving your body. First, it helps to alleviate anxiety and tension from that fight or flight response that I talked about in the beginning. If you're already shaky and nervous and you're standing there like this, you're going to be more shaky and nervous. But if you move, it gets some of that, it lets your body release some of that adrenaline and anxiety. You'll look more confident as a speaker because everybody knows if you're not a good speaker, you just stand here and look nervous, right? So if you're moving, the audience thinks, wow, this person's comfortable. They're confident. You might still be going shit hard, right? But you're moving and you're looking like it's easy. And so your audience will engage with you better, right? If you've ever had a course where your instructor stands in the front and talks, okay, or writes on the board the whole time and doesn't look at you, you know, pretty soon you're falling asleep. All three of you, I'm sure, are ready to fall asleep. It's 5:30, it's raining, it's windy, it's almost finals, you're stressed, right? Right?
Right.
Okay, but it's hard to fall asleep with me because I'm loud. And there's only three of you, so if you fall asleep, I will notice.
Yeah.
But yes, right. But in general, if I notice students are falling asleep or not paying attention, then I can raise my voice, you know, or I can just go quiet. And then they go, why did she thought, oh shit, it's me? Right? I saw that I'm not paying attention. And don't forget eye contact. You should address everyone in the room. Okay, so look around, look from this side to the back, to the middle. Okay, you may not have to try to make, just look deeply in their eyes, but at least look at people. Okay, it keeps them engaged and paying attention. And so think about it for a second. When you talk to your friends or your family, do you stand there like this? Yeah, if you're having a conversation, look at how my feet move. Like if I'm standing like this, that's not normal. All three of you stand up. Stand up. Oh, up you go. Okay. Now you can stay where you are, but we're just going to say like, okay, let's get our arms up high. Okay. Arms up. And then bring them down. Bring them down. Okay, then back up again. All right, so now the way you're standing right now is probably the way you're comfortable standing, with your feet a little bit more apart. Okay, you're relaxed. And so that's how we talk to people. It's like, look, I told you, right? Moving, 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 not standing like this. Okay. Maybe you had your exercise, now you can. Okay, so you want to try to talk to an audience of strangers or virtual strangers the same way you would talk normally to other people. Okay, and just move. You don't have to be running from this side to that side, but just a step or two, especially if you can step closer to them, it's better. And I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so your arms and hands. What you do want to do is use large movements from your shoulders. Okay, I watched a video saying that what you don't want to do is look like Barney. You guys know Barney, the purple dinosaur, the big purple dinosaur, and hello friends, right? You don't want to move just from our elbows. We want bigger movements coming from up here, especially when there's a larger crowd. Because if I'm down here going like this, the invisible people in the back, they can't see. Okay, vary your gestures. Okay, sometimes you may gesture this way. Sometimes you may say the first thing I want to talk about. Sometimes you're going to say it's really important, but kind of vary them. Use your arms to emphasize points. Okay, the most important thing is this. Okay, relax. Okay, you're using your arms to add emphasis. Don't, and as I put this down, I said that, don't keep your hands in your pocket. I don't even have pockets. Don't keep your hands in your pockets. Don't keep them behind your back. And you look like one of those professors that walks around thinking a lot, right? Don't keep them clasped in front of you. Let them loose, right? Let them loose. Don't fidget, which means to go like this. And Wilson, I think you might be more have a tendency to fidget. So you want to make sure that you relax. I'm saying this because I had him in class last quarter. Don't play with your pointer, right, or a pen like this. Yeah, it might be. And if you're a nervous kind of person, you might want to do that. At the same time, you don't want to use so much body movement that you look like you're waving down a taxi, right? Okay, so we're not getting overly excited. Yeah, maybe again. Like I did great. So with your feet and legs, that's kind of what I just did with it. You want to be in the position where you're most relaxed. So for most of us, our feet are equal distance like our shoulders. Okay. And that way, if we're really nervous, if we're standing like this, we might just keel right over, right? Because we don't have a good position of our feet. Don't glue yourself to the whiteboard or the screen. Another problem students have, they tend to stay right close to the board and they don't move. Okay, closer to the audience as much as you can, move around. Just what I said, move closer to the audience when you want to make a point, okay, or ask a question. Right, so you guys are pretty close to me already, but if you were further away, I would be further away. So you want to take a couple steps from time to time just to change your position in the room. All right, so you've seen, since I've been here talking, I've gone from there, well, from there to the middle, back over here, back again. You want to vary your position. And that doesn't mean you're looking like a father waiting for a baby to be born, right? It doesn't mean that you're looking nervous, but occasionally change your position.
Elaine, what strategy would you use if you have to stand up in front of a microphone in a huge audience that you cannot like speak and walk at the same time?
Okay, well now let me tell you what happened. So today with this presentation, they told me, please stay close to the podium. And I wrote back and said, I can't do that.
That's a good answer for you.
Yeah, I can't do that because one of the things I'm going to be telling students is don't stand close to the podium, right? And it's just not me, I move. You know me, right? I couldn't just stand there. So I would say, do you know that's for sure what it's gonna be?
Yes, it's like podium when you stand up and talk like the big screen will be in your side, back side, I think, left side, and then you'll have to talk in the microphone.
Okay, so one thing is to do what I did here when I took the microphone. Sorry, people, it's getting loud. I took the microphone and I turned it so that I could be next to the podium. And they told me that it carries 10 feet. So the other thing would be to ask if they have a clip-on microphone so that you can move. But I mean, if you're stuck there, you're stuck there. But I would just try, like I said, if possible, to come next to the microphone. You can test before your presentation to see, you know, if somebody is with you, you can say, can you hear me back there? And see how close you have to be. But I have never given a presentation anywhere at a conference where I had to be standing right in front of the microphone the whole time talking. Right? I mean, there's always some, although I kind of like the way that sounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was hoping they had like a clip on just so I sound so professional on the microphone. But yeah, I would just test it out, see what you can do. If you're forced to stand there, gesture.
Gesture.
Yeah.
So it's not good to hide behind the.
No, it's if possible, get away from that, because when you have that podium there, you're separating yourself from your audience. You're creating a distance. Exactly, and we don't want that. Okay, we want the audience to be engaged with us, to feel that we're dynamic and interesting, not that, you know, we think we're important and we're just standing up here behind the podium talking to them.
Then you have to.
The clicker, yeah. So try to just get there ahead of time and see what you can do. Because I know you like to move.
Yeah.
So
I feel way more comfortable if I could
yeah.
move, like.
Yeah, so just try to work it out. Usually they'll have a clip-on or something that you could use. Okay, the other thing is, I'm sorry you guys can't see with all these Zoom controls. As much as possible, avoid turning your back to the audience. Okay, and sometimes you may have to if you're a TA, for example. Are you a TA?
Yeah.
So in what's your field? Oh, okay, so you have to write a lot on the board. So you may have to, but you want to write and turn around and engage, okay? Especially if you're TAing undergrads, because the problem is that as soon as you turn your back on them, the phone comes out, right? Because we never know when the love of our life might send us a message, right? And so we hear the message come, or we feel the vibration, but damn, Wilson is looking at me, but then Wilson turns around, he starts writing, out comes my phone. So, you know, as soon as you turn your back, you're disengaging. So as much as possible, write what you have to write and turn back around to the audience as much as you can. Okay, that's one of the cardinal rules. And I'm sure you guys have taken classes before where your professor or instructor spent half the time facing the board. Okay, it happens still today. All right, so let's practice. We're going to add a gesture to the first part of a sentence. Then we'll take 2 steps towards the audience. All right. And then we'll end with another gesture, or even 2 if you want, for the last 2 parts. All right, so we're all going to practice doing this. Or I should say, you guys will practice doing this. But I'll show you. So if I'm starting with the gesture for the first part, the first line, okay, here's my gesture. The most important thing to remember is, now I'm going to take a couple steps forward, that anxiety is normal when doing a presentation. Now, my hands are still going, but that practice makes it easier. We're doing a gesture for the first part. We're taking a couple steps, and then another gesture for the very last part. So I mean, because I just realized how difficult it is to do that and look at the thing, I'm going to have you guys start over here. Okay, so you can see this. So let's read it all together just so that we've got it down. So the most important thing to remember is,
The most important thing to remember is,
and notice I've got the bold for the words you're stressing, that anxiety is normal when doing a presentation.
that is normal when doing a presentation,
But the practice makes it easier.
but the practice makes it easier.
Okay. All right, quickly, questions and answers. All right, so you always want to end a presentation by asking for questions, even if you don't want anyone to ask a question, right? Questions are scary. You don't know what people are going to ask you. That's the scariest part to me, is like, what if they ask me something I have no idea how to answer? So you can end by saying, I hope you now have a better understanding of whatever your topic is, and then pause a little bit. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Finish, pause. Now, please let me know if you have any questions. All right, and in your mind, you're going, no. Let somebody ask you a question, right? So when they ask the question, there's 2 reasons why you want to try to paraphrase or repeat their question. So first of all is to make sure you actually understood what they're asking. Now you may think, oh, she thinks that we don't have good listening skills. No, maybe your questioner doesn't have good speaking skills. And I saw this last year in 391, my class, that a student with a very strong accent who spoke very quickly asked a question, and the young woman who was presenting, I saw her eyes go big because she didn't have any idea what he asked her. So the first thing she did was said, I'm sorry, can you repeat your question, please? And he did a little bit more slowly. Then she said, okay, so wait, are you asking me da 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 da? And then we were good. So she clarified that she understood the question. So you're asking whether my research showed a definite correlation between X and Y. And the person says yes, or they say no, I'm really asking you this. You also want to make sure the rest of the audience has heard the question. Okay, and that you're going to be answering. So the question was whether my research showed a definite correlation between X and Y. And then you can answer.
And you have more time to think.
Yes, and you also do have, and I'm gonna give you the strategy for that one here. So when you're doing the dissertation defense, or even now for your proposal, or anything really, trying to think of what questions you might get is important. Okay, because then you can kind of prepare them. So if you know there's some area of your research or your presentation that might be a little, we say wonky, like, it's like, oh, I don't feel good about that. And I think, maybe Professor Smith is going to like hit me on that one. Prepare your answer, okay? So typical questions you might get are things like aspects, as I mentioned earlier, of specific feedback that you've already received, okay? They may go back to that to make sure you really got that. How your theoretical framework helped you to interpret your results, okay? The ways in which your research addresses a gap in previous research. What the limitations to your research were. How you might do things differently if you had to go back and start all over again. What the next steps for your research might be, or for the topic or issue that you're covering. And what would you have done if X or Y had happened? How would you have handled that? So sometimes they're just trying to get you to think, what we say, think on your feet. And to see, they may not want a perfect answer, but they want to know how your brain is working through things. So think about each committee member, what their research area is, or their specialty. Another hard word for me in Spanish, especialización, right? And what they might ask based on their own interests or expertise. Right? And that's a big step to thinking like, you know what, I know this guy is going to ask me this. Or she's been writing a lot about this, so she may ask me about that. Prepare. So what if you don't know the answer? Right? You don't want to just stand there with your mouth open like the fly coming through, right? So this is what Wilson was saying. You want to try to have a couple responses ready for when you really don't know the answer, your mind goes blank, okay? So that's an interesting question, but I'm not able to give an exact answer right now. I might hypothesize that and something that you say, but you're giving yourself a little time and kind of giving I might hypothesize that, blah, blah, blah. Or that's a bit outside the scope of my research, but based on my experience, I would think this. I don't know the answer to that, but I can certainly investigate and get back to you. I need a little more time to answer that. So let me take another question and then come back to it. Now, our brains are amazing things. So as long as you get a fairly easy question, when you leave that guy and you take the next question, if the question is pretty easy for you to answer, your brain's going trying to find an answer to that question you couldn't answer. Okay? They're amazing machines. And there's a lot of stuff going on back there in the time it took you to say, is there another question? And you wait around for somebody to raise your hand, and you can have your friend in the back prepared with a question for you that you know the answer to. But don't worry if you need to take a moment to think. I'm so guilty of just trying to answer. And I tell people all the time, I'll start lying, right? Yeah, because I just want to answer. So and then I have to say, okay, Elaine, just shut up and think. It's perfectly fine to just say, just give me a moment. Can I have a moment to think about it? That's fine. And don't panic if you really don't know the answer, because it happens. It happens to all of us. Okay. All right, so remember, practice, practice, practice. Sleep, eat, relax. Take care of your body and your brain so that they will help you when the times of stress come. Speak slowly and clearly. Don't try to hide that you have an accent. Embrace it. Okay, you guys are amazing that you're here today doing what you're doing. Okay, it's absolutely incredible. So be proud of yourselves and know that a lot of Americans, probably most, don't even speak another language at all. You hear Americans going, yeah, buenos dias, mi amigo. Right? Like that's all they know, right? That's it. So be very proud of yourselves. Focus on your information. That's why you're there. That's what your audience wants. They're not worried about you, and as long as they understand you, that's what they're concerned about. Move your body for yourself and for your audience, and smile. Okay, one of the best things you can do is smile at people. People will like you better if you smile at them. Okay, so that's it. If you would like to improve your speaking and presentation skills, I am teaching UWP 391 this spring. Okay, and again in the fall, I hope. But we will definitely have sections, but UWP 391 only works on speaking and presentation skills. Really no homework besides preparing presentations that that relate to your field. Okay. Questions?
So no reading, just the presentations and.
Well, I might give you a couple of readings, but I'm not really checking that you do them. And the reading would be like how to do a good presentation. And it's kind of easy. I mean, they're not hard readings at all. Did you read any of the readings we had last quarter?
I remember it was good readings.
And they weren't hard, right?
They were not. And also it was helpful to improve my vocabulary. It was very good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, it's not theoretical stuff at all. I'm not trying to pull out linguistics text, so. Anything else?
Yeah, and definitely that maybe the fall would be interesting, useful because I have to prepare for.
Yes, it probably would be very useful. Yes, I think so. Well, thank you very much, you guys. Muchísimas gracias. ¿Cómo se dice eso? How do you say that in Portuguese?
Muito obrigada.
Muito obrigado.
Yeah.